Welcome all the delegates and all the visitors to Steel and Metal Expo and 10th Asian Metallurgy. And we are into the discussion of a very important subject and important industry, which is foundry industry. As we all know, foundry is a very, very important industry in metallurgical sector. In fact, as metallurgy is called mother of all industries, it is basically due to the foundries, which we know that castings go into almost every industry, and so that importance is there for foundries. Steel, whether it is steel, ferrous or non-ferrous, cast iron, gray iron, whatever. But nobody can imagine any industry in today's world without castings. So castings almost have entered into all industries. So to that extent, as I said, casting industry, foundry sector is a very important sector in this industry. And in India, we fortunately have, I think, second biggest foundry sector in the world, and it is growing at a phenomenal pace. Of course, it has any growth is a bumpy ride. So foundry also had its own crest and throws in the past. So there were dips where the automobile industry was not doing well, and then a lot of people question about the viability and sustainability of foundry industry. So foundry industry has gone through all these ups and downs and all this bumpy ride in the past. So now we are at a juncture where we are going to discuss about the present status of the foundries and, more importantly, the future of foundries. What is going to be the future? We have experts and actually foundrymen who are practicing casting industry. They are with us. I would like to introduce them one by one. Mr. Subramanian is a former head of Tata Foundries at Mahindra, right, sir? And now he is a freelance consultant. Welcome, Mr. Mani. He has a vast experience about the running of foundries and vast experience about all the technicalities and intricacies of foundries. So I would like to welcome Mr. Mani Subramanian, and I am sure he would share his experience with us. Then we have Mr. Sachin Shirgaokar. Sachin Shirgaokar heads and runs two foundries, big foundries, big engineering foundries. So he is also president of Institute of Indian Foundrymen Kolhapur chapter. So he is exactly in the center of the business, I would say. So I would please welcome Mr. Sachin, and we would like to hear from you the present status and the future of foundries as you see it, because you are running the foundries yourself. The third person we have is Mr. Amar Patil. Amar Patil is head of foundry at Mahindra. He is CMD of Mahindra's Kandivli plant and general manager of foundries. And he has also got vast experience in running the foundries, and all these three persons, they know all intricacies about the foundries, and we are very happy to, very fortunate to have these people with us. So my first question to all of them is, what is the present status of the foundries today? How is about after the COVID? We had two and a half long years of bad years of COVID. So in those years, we knew that automobile production was reduced to almost nil at one time, at one point of time, and now it is gradually picking up. And now it is said that automobile industry will have a bright future in coming days. So how do we see foundries and we see castings industry in the light of the present economic scenario? Mr. Mani, please, starting with you.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Ganesh. So to answer your question very specifically, yes, the pandemic really put the foundry industry in a spiral. So they didn't know how to respond to it. And together with that, the EV market was also bubbling. So Foundry had to rethink and also find ways to be more profitable in the long run. So whether to invest in the EV market or whether to continue with the same set of infrastructure was a big question that was coming up, and it's still coming up, and it's going to be present for a few years more, because the EV development is still in the nascent stage. And India, although the government is trying to push the EV development in a proper way, but the basic requirement of electricity to charge the vehicles is not up to the mark. So there is a lot to be done, and then it will take years to catch up, because even the basic electricity generation and distribution itself is not reaching all over the country. So there are only some segments of the country that are fortunate to have it. So that being the case, so there is going to be a parallel market, one for the EV segment and one for the traditional fossil fuel segment. Basically, I'm talking about the automobile sector. Whereas in the engineering and construction business, the castings needs will continue to grow. Just the pandemic has gone, so we'll be back into the business, and then it will grow in a better way, because people have found more cost-effective methods and digitization, and then so such opportunities are being explored. So those industries also will see the brighter future, whereas the fossil fuel based cast iron market is, over the years, it is going to wane down and replaced by EV market. While we are talking about EV market, I would say that there are many opportunists who want to jump into the well. So they are either the current foundry entrepreneurs, or new entrants who wish to capitalize on the aluminum segment. So there is a lot of hubbub in this discussion. So we'll see more exciting days in future. But what I would say is, while we are doing it, the development in EV based castings, both high pressure as well as gravity or low pressure, should be looked at in collaboration with global sourcing concept, because we are not only serving the Indian market. So we start looking at exports, and then we slowly catch up with the domestic, and infrastructure for battery charging is ready. So this is what I want to say to the beginning, the first question that you put.
Thank you, Mr. Mani. Just one sub question, sir. If at all, even if there is EV coming up in the future, near future, it will hamper only the engine parts, right? The transmission part, other parts will not be hampered. So in case of EV also,
but the transmission
the also will be impacted.
No. The transmission, in the case, the type of gears, the type of the axles, so that they will differ. So the whole concept might change. So we are still in the nebulous stage. So we are not very clear about what. But currently, yes, what you're saying is right. So we will continue with the hybrid of cast iron and aluminum components.
And when there is a hybrid model, then there is no question, because hybrid model will have both the things, no?
Yeah.
So your conventional vehicle parts also, and then EV facility also. So for hybrid model, we don't have to worry. Only that when it is a complete 100% EV, then only there is a issue.
Yeah, but the thing is, one day or the other, the lightweighting has to take precedence over the heavier cast irons.
Yes. The question is how far and how near is that point?
It's a big question.
It's a big question. Anyway, I will now move on to Mr. Sachin. Mr. Sachin, my question to you specifically, apart from the opening remarks, is: are we too much dependent on auto industry? Are we not able to find the alternate markets, alternate applications for founder casting? Are we not serious about exports? These are my sub questions, and with the main question: present status of the industry, your opening comments. Mr. Sachin, please.
Yeah, good morning to everyone. Thank you, first of all, Mr. Chandekar, for giving me this opportunity to interact with you on this subject. Um we all know that the automotive sector actually dominates the business boundaries. 30% of that globally is actually the automotive sector. And all the other sectors are hardly maybe 5 to 6% of the market share, whether you take it power, whether you take it valve and pump, you take machine tools, or you take any industry like railways. Today, they are only at around 5 to 6% of the overall market share of whether it is a ferrous or a non-ferrous business. So, predominantly, it is the automotive that does dominate the foundry sector. And I think it will continue to dominate. It is the sector world over, which is, the fast moving sector. So, having said that, we are totally into a different sector altogether. Majority of we cater to the sugar industry through a company called SB Reshellers, and we cater to the newest growing industry, the renewable sector, which is through a company called Synergy Green. And we are into these two sectors and not at all into the automotive sector. So I think to answer your first question, whether we are dependent too much on the automotive, we all know that we are dependent on it, and we fortunately are not dependent on it as a business. So that is the first thing that I would say.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at these two sectors that we cater to, there is a lot of growing demand, but not the volumes and not the market share in terms of value as well as in terms of the size that these two industries can dominate and take over the other sectors. But I'm very sure the growing sector of the renewables, which is the future of the industry and the future of the world, that the government of India as well as all the governments are talking about, is to be in the space of renewables and grow in that space and finally achieve that carbon neutral thing or net zero thing that every company or every country needs to look at. So I think we are in one of those sectors, which is the growing sector of the industry, where which is today maybe at around 5-6% of the overall volume in terms of size or in terms of tonnage. But that is going to grow because this sector actually is a very matured sector in a country like China, and lot of imports are happening through this sector of the renewables. And I feel this is a growing sector because when I look at volumes, the machine tool industry, yes, there is volumes, and the machine tool industry does have for the foundry industry a single pattern and n number of castings that can be produced based on the volumes that is required, like the automotive. And it may not be in the pump and valve or the pipe and fittings industry as such, as compared to that in industries like the machine tool or the renewables. So to answer your first question, yes, we are dependent on the auto, and where I see the growing industry is surely the machine tool, which is a matured industry, and the renewables, which is a growing industry to come and take some market share of this ferrous and non-ferrous castings. I'll come to the second point is about the exports. So majority of the foundries, whether you take it in Kolhapur, you take it in the country, I think majority of them have started exporting. Of course, we are not very competitive as compared to the Chinese industry because there we have a very big threat. Those sizes as such of the Chinese foundries are very huge. But with the China plus one policy, I guess we are going to have a very good future in the industry because in the next 10 years, what we see is whether we are into the automotive, we are not into the automotive, which is predominantly the industry that everybody is into. We are going to see a lot of export opportunities growing. And that is because of the China plus one policy that every country is thinking of adopting. That is the second point on the exports that I would say. And many companies, if I look at companies in Kolhapur or look at companies in Coimbatore or Rajkot, many of them are geared up to the necessity of exporting. Meaning they are either having all kinds of operational excellence within their companies, and they're quite aware of the quality that is required. So as far as export go, I think it is going to continuously grow over the years in any sector that we are going to remain in. And the third point on the EV that I also made during the last IIF meeting in Pune, and what we heard out of the Westcon conference that we had in Kolhapur this year from one of the experts in the automotive industry, from mainly from Toyota, is the hybrid is what is going to dominate the market. That is what I feel. Instead of the EVs and instead of the industry shifting gear to the aluminum sector because of the EVs, I think for the next 15 years or so, we don't have a threat from the industry as far as the automotive is concerned, because there is a new policy that the government came up with in the last 2 years, which is mainly the ethanol policy. And the ethanol policy has been a very favorable policy for the sugar industry, which in turn actually helps the farmer, which is the biggest vote bank of India, which all of us know. So where the government is going to concentrate, is it going to concentrate on the EVs, or is it going to concentrate on the sugar sector, which is the growing largest in the world? You know, the sugar sector in India is the largest in the world, which is anyway having this byproduct of producing ethanol, which is going to be mixed in petrol or fuel, which already has a chain of established pumps and fueling stations everywhere, which is not there in case of the EV. So the EV as such, yes, it is going to grow. We are going to see the two-wheeler sector coming into the EV very fast. But I think when it comes to the four-wheeler or the commercial vehicle sector, it is going to be predominantly the hybrid model of the vehicles that Toyota is launching, that Maruti has already launched. It is this hybrid model which is going to actually take more shape in the future. The person who gave this kind of a feedback also was on the same lines, that they gave a presentation through Toyota Motors to the government of India, wherein he did mention that if at all there is a threat to the automotive casting manufacturers, it will not be there, because the way the industry is today structured, it would give a big jolt to the manufacturing sector if at all the government shifts totally to the EV sector by promoting a lot of things. So the government has, I think, understood it, and accordingly in the last 2 years, they have changed the policy on ethanol. So that is where I feel the EV sector is not going to be very fastly growing in the four-wheeler and the commercial vehicle sector. So that is it from my side as far as your first question comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachin. My comments on this is, first of all, hybrid cars will cost more than the conventional cars also, and EV cars also. So hybrid car, because they will have both the things, no, EV facility also and conventional car parts also. So I feel that I don't perfectly agree with this, that hybrid will be the most popular thing, because it will be the costliest of the three lots. Number one. Number two, you mentioned a very right point, that China plus policy. So China plus policy, a lot of companies are investing in other countries other than China, right? They have got, they are opening manufacturing facilities in many other countries. Are we seeing such sort of influx of investments in foundry sector? Mr. Sachin, just short answer to this. Are we seeing any investments for foreign investment, overseas investments in foundry sector?
Yeah, at least I think we saw that in the renewable space. So there is a company which already started in the renewable space. So and I think automotive anyway is a matured sector as far as the casting business is concerned. So I don't know whether a lot of investment is going to come there. That I think
Okay.
Amar is going to talk about it more, because he has a lot of knowledge on that. But for new upcoming sector, and just to comment on your EV, the price of the EV that is launched, hybrid vehicle or Toyota, is hardly 18 lakhs. It's not costly at all. So anyway.
Yeah, that is relative, sir. Anyway, I will now go to Mr. Amar. Mr. Amar, apart from my first question, general questions, present status of the industry, I would like you to also comment on the degree of digitalization that foundries are having, because I know Mahindra, in your foundry, you have done a lot of digitalization modules, a lot of the work on digitalization. So I would like to know from you, what have you done, number one, and how other foundries are responding to this call of digitalization, and what is your take on that? That will be my sub question, apart from the main question of present status of foundries. Mr. Amar Patil.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning, one and all present over here. Thanks to Metalworld, Steel Metal Expo, and Mr. Chandekar for giving us an opportunity to share our thought on this topic today. Coming to this digitalization, it is across all the industries. The penetration is across all the industries we are witnessing, seeing, and the deliverables and the benefits also we are witnessing out of it. As far as Foundry is concerned, the space vis-a-vis, because I do see that Foundry as well as non-Foundry also being a part of Mahindra. So the pace in Foundry is bit lesser compared with the other manufacturing industries like machine industries or some kind of assemblies and all. So amount of digitization across over there is a bit penetration in foundry industry. Yes, but of course there is a potential. The people need to understand first the need of the foundry where that digitalization can help us. It is not only that someone wants to do a digitalization and he will just go and investing in the digitalization in his industry. So he will not get or reap the benefit out of it. So it will in turn, it will just add a cost into it, and it is a cost of capital, and it will be again that challenge of to become a cost competitive. So it's a very, very tricky and very, very sensitive subject of digitalization. First, we need to understand the need of an hour, means what in which area I needed digitalization. So basically, it is kind of a thing that there is a big data analytics, and we saw there are many under the digitalization. There are many kind of areas where we can penetrate across the areas of manufacturing, as well as service industries also. So what I would say that in foundry industry, yes, there is a like a being all of us know that foundry is an energy guzzler. So yes, digitalization will definitely will help into that energy monitoring, real-time data monitoring, where I can optimize the resources, basically energy, because since it is a contributing around 13 to 15% of your total cost, manufacturing cost. So it is very, very important being in the areas of energy. Second thing is like definitely it is helpful in the SCM areas, supply chain. So we can have that real time, all those inventories and all those kind of monitoring, because that is also one of the costs. Because I see that in foundry industry, inventory has been given that less importance, and which is actually is very, very important in terms of your profit. It dictates your profitability. So in some cases, I can see that the inventories of right from 6 days, it means up to 20, 30 days also. So it's very, very challenging, because ultimately that foundry is a very cost competitive. You need to ensure vis-a-vis all these other players, means other dignitaries as mentioned, Mr. Sachin as well as Subramanian. So how that export is going to play a vital role. So if you want to be a competitive vis-a-vis all these global markets, so we need to be competitive in terms of cost as well as quality. So in quality areas, of course, yes, digitalization is going to help us in real-time monitoring, so big data analytics, but also important too that digitalization should interpret your kind of analytical algorithm. It is giving some kind of inputs or trigger where I need to work exactly. Otherwise, it will become only data, big data. You will go and storing the data, and again you need that manual intervention to interpret the data and do an analysis. Because only data will not suffice unless and until it is in the form of some analysis, where you can do an analysis and interpret and then come to a conclusion of taking some kind of an action. So in these areas, yes, definitely, but it needs to be is very, very critically. We need to see the need in terms of digitalization in foundry industry. That is what I would like to mention over here.
Yeah, you can also comment on the EV part, because Mr. Sachin feels that EV is still 15 years away, which I personally don't feel. So you can comment on this aspect and the hybrid model and pure EV and the conventional, that also you can comment on.
Yes, yes. Definitely, e-vehicle will be a future. So currently the penetration is very, very low across the global. Means I would say rather around 90 million vehicle across this passenger as well as light commercial vehicle across the globe. The percentage of penetration of EV today is hardly 2 to 3%. But going forward by 2033, it is going to reach to 30-35 because of that strong promotional policy by the government as well as the people sentiment also, because people they also want to, they are aware about this kind of the global sustainability issues and all. So these kind of certain corporates also promoting those kind of a culture and all. So these kind of things are going to come. So penetration will be there in the EV vehicle, no doubt about it. However, Mr. Sachin has mentioned how much it is contributing. Auto sector, yes, 35% it is. We are relying that foundry industry on automobile. However, that balance, if you see these out of that, if you remove that 32% of auto, then 68%, though it is a partial 3%, 5% in various other industries, yes, there is a tremendous scope into it. Another thing I would see that another challenge is that definitely infrastructure. So it is going to take a time. Infrastructure not only in terms of availability of plug-in batteries and e-charging and all, however road conditions also. So in India, there are definitely challenges, but going forward, we need to be prepared for it, and we need to have our strategy to move ahead with considering the policy of this electrical vehicle coming around. So we need to work on the other areas like light metal as well as aluminum. Definitely, there is also scope exists across the globe, and if you see that current foundry industries, we are at par with that global standard. Our technology is at par with the global standard. If you see that, even I would say that tier 1, tier 2 supplier, forget about OEM, even tier 1, tier 2 supplier also is having that similar kind of a thing, technology vis-a-vis that global foundries what they have. So only thing I would like to mention over here is that foundry need, in Indian context, foundries need to change their strategies in terms of some consolidation. So they need to, if you see that, compare that other foundries, basically in Europe, USA and China per se. So the foundries are there concentrating on that one product mix, where the foundries specialize in the block. The foundry, another foundry specialize in cylinder head. Whereas in our Indian foundry context, if you see that foundries, they produce all right from that cylinder block, cylinder head to the housing and non-critical casting.
Yes.
Was it is very, very important. Foundry has got almost 130 plus variables. None of the other process has got. So it's very, very complex process. It is not only depending on 4M, man machine material method, but it is also depending on that environment. Yeah. So those environmental aspects are also going to play a major role into it. So to control those variables, because the profitability, if you see that EBITDA margin and all, they are at par with the global currently. And if you want to compete vis-a-vis that global, as Mr. Sachin has also mentioned that China plus one policy and all. If you want to compete at the global level, because global there's a tremendous scope, means total 105 million metric ton is the potential. Though we are second largest, China is 45, 47 million metric ton.
Yeah.
We are hardly 11 million metric tons. Yes, there is a potential. So to tap this potential, we need to be very cost competitive, and to remain the cost competitive, we need to work on certain aspects where that consolidation and retaining our profit margin through our operational excellence. So that is what I feel is very, very important in this area.
Thanks, Mr. Amar. Just one additional question, and then I would like to go to Mr. Mani. That how far this new scrappage policy will help foundries? Mr. Amar, just short answer.
Acha, for me, sorry.
Yeah, short answer. How far this new scrappage policy will help foundries?
Yeah, scrappage policy definitely will help because earlier the eras of earlier 30 years, 40 years vehicle, someone is retaining. So definitely it is a good potential for
Yeah.
most of the automobile industries where they can have that very high sales
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
seeing in Indian automobile industry also. Means now our total, as I explained, that global total share. Earlier, it used to be 2 to 3%. Now we have moved to that 4 to 5% of total global market on automobile industry.
Yeah.
So there is a potential, and it is going to grow further in Indian context. Only challenges are like the supply disruption, as well as that certain parts like we know that all those infotainment and that
Yes.
semiconductors and all. So definitely it will also will get resolved, and we can see that good sales volume in Indian auto industries, because we have already witnessed that waiting period of our vehicles, most of the vehicles is ranging from 6 months to almost 1.5 years.
Yeah.
So there is a tremendous potential of sales of the vehicles. So definitely these such policies are helping auto industries to increase their volumes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Amar. Now, I would like to, ask Mr. Mani Subramanian. Sir, you must be in touch with a lot of foundries as a consultant. How far, I was asking this question to Mr. Amar, how far you feel the foundries have adopted digitalization? That is number one. And how far our Indian foundries are competitive in the world market? Mr. Sachin said earlier that exports are the booming, and we are expecting more export in the future. So how far we are competitive really as a consultant? What is your opinion? You must have seen a lot of foundries. Must be
Yeah,
seeing a lot of foundries.
yeah.
Two aspects:
Thank you for
digitalization and export potential.
yeah. Okay. Good questions again. To continue with what Amar said about uh, digitization. So digitization in Foundry, as I see, it is stopping somewhere where it is generating data, but most of the time it is resident in the
Just a minute, sir. Just a minute. After that, we will be having final comment from other two people, and we'll be closing down. Mr. Sachin, Mr. Amar, just will be targeting 45 minutes, not beyond that. Okay.
Okay,
Continue,
okay.
Mr. Amar.
so the digitization in the foundries is stopping somewhere. Beyond that, it is not moving for various reasons. One is that it is the foundry is a unit process industry where a lot many technologies are involved in the chemistry, the thermodynamics, and fluid dynamics, and so many things are added in one, and there are too many variables to counter. So on a digital platform. So when you have some data, how do you react to that in a real time? So there is one example which I did. I can share with you in a couple of minutes. So it was an integration process where aluminum wheels were produced and inspected on a robotic X-ray machine, and then the feedback comes from the X-ray room, and then the operator has to respond to it. So this was a manual process of feedback to the operator, and the operator has to respond. So there are so many ifs and buts. How fast the feedback is relayed to the operator, and how fast he is going to react to the known variables that is on the low pressure die casting machine. So the integration process was that you take the output from the X-ray machine digitally into a black box, and from there you program it to the machine. The machines were converted for accepting these signals from this software, and all the transducers were modified, and then the algorithm was set to receive this input from this software. So there was a direct integration of the inspection method to the machine through this software, where the real-time changes on the machine could be done without the intervention of the operator, or operator knowledge, operator alertness, or the speed with which he could react. All those things could be avoided. So that is one example that I can say that if we should find such examples in many areas of foundry operation where we can integrate and then utilize the data available to integrate. Like I said. Then the second question is about the exports, as you said. Well, I have seen many foundries exporting, and I have dealt with the OEM people also, to the extent that I had to argue with them, saying that their specifications need a modification. An example was even the Jaguar Land Rover people had to modify their composition for exhaust manifolds. So, such is the case where we should look at it from that perspective, saying that we should not succumb to spurious, demands which are far exceeding our capabilities. Many of them may not be relevant. So we have to work out with the export market potential in this way. So we definitely have a edge on that. But the thing is, once we accept the order and then we start manufacturing, we have so many variables which we have to counter it. So there's always an expectation that you fix a price and then this is your process and this is how we are going to operate. But tomorrow I don't know what is going to happen, because I may fall short of scrap, I may fall short of coke, it's so many earth-based variables and so many imported raw materials and so many manufactured goods who are also dependent on imported inputs. So there is a lot of uncertainty around the manufacturing process itself. I have seen people suffering because of even the simple thing like sand control when mining and transport. These are really challenges in the export market. However, one need to build up certain confidence in their own process. Here, there comes a question of capability to attend to challenges technically. It's not just digits. It's not generating numbers or analytics. It is about ability to respond, knowing the science behind a certain process. And we do not have that many people who can contribute in this sector. So that is the challenge that I'm seeing in the export market.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mani. And now we'll have final comment from everybody on the three experts. I feel for one that Foundry definitely has a better future. Only thing I would want from my side or from neutral side is that we should go more faster on digitalization front. That will make us more competitive in the world market. That's what my take is on foundry industry. Otherwise, and as Sachin said, he himself is not dependent at all on automobile industry. So, if not to follow his example, but then we should also reduce our dependency on automobile industry and look for alternative industries and alternative applications. That can be another thing which foundries can do. But of course, we would like to hear from the experts what are their final comments on future of foundries in India. Starting with Mr. Sachin.
Yeah, so as far as the future is concerned, I personally feel it's very bright future for the foundry industry in India. First thing is the China +1 policy. That is the first thing that I mentioned also. And second thing is, as far as the volumes are concerned, we cannot escape and we cannot say that there is no other industry than the automotive industry where there is volume. So if a company has to grow and if a company has to expand, then the volume business is what is looked at. And it's very easy once you have volumes, then it's easy for you to maintain quality, to maintain deliveries and all that. So as far as the automotive sector goes, I don't see any reason for not being in that sector. But only thing is, I feel looking at the future, people should start diversifying into the other sectors and maybe make it a strategy as such to have a market share of maybe 25% of the non-automotive sector in the existing foundry. If they start that today, maybe in the future we would see that industry in the next 5 years or so growing into some other sectors. That should be the strategy as such. As far as the process of growth is concerned in a foundry. That is what I feel. And we have done that also in our own foundry, whether it's a sugar foundry, basically a foundry catering to the sugar industry or catering to the renewables. We still have around 20% going to the other sectors from the same foundries, the heavy foundries that we have. That is one. Second is about digitalization. As I said, we took this as the main subject of discussion for the WestCon 2022 in month of October. We had 2 days of sessions wherein we took a lot of experts who've already engaged into digitalization. And I think it is rightly said by Mr. Amar that for an industry like Foundry, where do we start with this digitalization? We are at a very nascent stage in digitalization, and where do we start? And that is what we wanted to really, debate in the Western Region Conference, and we could get a lot of inputs from various experts on digitalization. So he is rightly said, energy is the second largest component of a foundry industry, and if we look at that particular segment of the whole cost and start working on digitalization in the next 1 year or so, we would have everything really on our fingertips as far as energy is concerned, and whether we are in line with what is expected out of that particular energy consumption that we are having in the foundry industry. So it's not that digitalization meaning we just start everywhere. We should, I think, focus in one area, and once we do that, once we master it, maybe in the next 6 months to 1 year, then we can gradually start going into the process, and then process digitalization can happen. So but compared to any other industry, it's very difficult, I guess, to really have digitalization in a foundry wherein there is a lot of other processes, molding, petling, everything else is involved, which is quite manual compared to a machine shop where digitalization already people have done. So based on this, we did have a beginning as far as the thought process is concerned about the foundry industry and going into digitalization. And slowly, I think people have realized that there is a lesser digitalization process that we have done in our own foundries, and we should look at more of that, but in a particular area. And as I said, energy would be the first that we would look at in a foundry like ours, where that is one of the major costs, and then move it to the next level of digitalization in the other areas. When we took up this topic of digitalization, I had visited Bharat Forge last year. Extent of digitalization that they have done is mind-boggling. I would say that everywhere, I'm sure many other foundries must have done it, but a machine shop and a heavy foundry and a forge shop, which is as huge as Bharat Forge, really has done excellent work in digitalization. And I think we took it from there, and then we created a center of excellence in Kolhapur, which in the last 1 year is working for the industry towards digitalization. So we would look at this particular center to handhold people in the foundry industry to, look at areas where digitalization can happen. Because sometimes we are also lost. Where do we begin? And that is where I think somebody who has already worked in this space, or some foundries who have already done excellent work in this space, can come in and help us within a city like Kolhapur to grow. So that are my comments on both the areas. In case I have to leave early because I have something on at 12 o'clock, I just wanted to thank you in advance. I may be there till the end, but just in advance, I wanted to thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Just one point, Mr. Sachin. By the way, do you know that Bharat Forge doesn't supply a kilo to automobile industries?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Bharat Forge doesn't supply anything to automobile industries. They are also out of automobile industries now.
So as far as Bharat Forge is concerned, they were almost 75% to the auto sector, and today they have dropped it to almost 45% of their market share. So that's a strategy they adopted.
You account the Kalyani Forge also, but I think Bharat Forge doesn't supply anything to automobile.
No, it does. Yeah, very much.
Because they are into heavy forgings now, no?
No, they are still into the crankshaft business. They are still into the business of automotive. But as I said, it was a strategy. They dropped it from 75 to 45.
Yes.
So that is what I said in the beginning, that we also should look at a strategy of, having some market share of the other sectors so that we
Correct.
One day don't get a call and say that the whole production is dropping just because the industry is moving in the other direction,
Yes.
which we
Yes.
already know it is going to. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sachin, for your very valuable inputs. And I request you to be there till the end. It's not going to take much of a time. Now I will go to Mr. Amar. Mr. Amar, your final call, your final comments.
Yeah, I will not speak much on this digitalization as well as this constitutor of auto and non-auto and e-vehicle. We already spoken. A lot of churning has happened. So only area I would like to touch over here is that there is a definitely is a potential in foundry industry. As I said, there is we need to look at that global level. One recent statistic I would like to just mention over here is that from that April to October, if you see that many countries have dumped their steel in India at a lesser price than manufacturing cost of Indian, means what they manufacture. It's like our manufacturing cost, for example, 56,000 per ton, whereas Japan has dumped lot of steels in India at 48,000 per ton because that is the excess surplus capacity they were having. So it is again one of the threat for us, means how we can be a global competitive in the market if you want to export and all those areas, because there is a global slowdown basically in the areas of Europe and USA. So many countries they have a surplus capacity they would like to whether the export, and if you see that our import of steel is almost 10% in this current financial year of our total consumption. So that is not a good sign. So what we need to do, and we as a foundry industry need to look at, we need to be cost competitive. Of course, this quality, meeting that quality standard is there's no choice. It is we have to meet the quality standards, and I already have mentioned on that. To meet that quality, we have vis-a-vis right technology available with us vis-a-vis the global players. So cost competitiveness is very, very important. We need to thrust into those areas. So we know that where that cost we can control, means intrinsic factors, because extrinsic factors like raw material, kind of a taxes and all government regulations, there we have no control. But definitely we have a control on the intrinsic factors like our operational efficiency, energy consumption, output per person, rejection control, and all those areas. So those areas we need to work, and we need to be cost competitive vis-a-vis we can tap the potential in the global market. That is what I would like to mention.
Thank you, Mr. Sachin. And now we will go to Mr. Mani. Sir, your advice, please. Getting free advice from the consultant.
So other people have really talked quite a lot about the conclusion part, but then I would like to just digress on one aspect. The future lies in building a strong team of people who can address situations when changes happen inside a company. All said and done, you may have an export market, you may have the infrastructure. If you don't have the wherewithal to attend to issues that crop up every now and then there's a problem. Why I'm saying is because the subject of metallurgy has taken a backseat over the years, and there are not many metallurgists coming out of the institutes in India. And those who want to do metallurgy, they study abroad and then they get employed there. Their expertise is not utilized inside the country. So what is required is to develop foundrymen who can help foundries. Currently, what is happening? Your foundries are flooded with production engineers and mechanical engineers who have dabbed into this process, not in a full scale, but when they start operating, there are some vacuum that you can see. So that's how I'm looking at. We need to develop institutes who can promote foundry science and then foundry applications in a big way, so that the research in the foundry sector can adopt technologies that are more economical for production as well as for cost reduction in many other areas also. It's not just digitization or integration of the process, but I feel that we need people who can manage the show with the background of the right science. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Subramanian. In fact, he has touched upon very vital subject. When we talk about growth, phenomenal growth in metallurgical sector. Maybe it is steel, maybe it is foundry, maybe it is non-ferrous metals. We tend to forget one important aspect, which is availability of technically qualified manpower. I think that is one area where everybody, government, institutes, and the bodies like IIF should pay their attention and do some training programs, conduct some training programs, so that the availability of technically qualified manpower is not a problem for us. And it is currently, as Mr. Subramanian rightly mentioned, there was a study some years back in Ministry of Steel that about the status of metallurgists in the country, and it was we were very surprised to find out that 70% of the metallurgists leave metallurgy at the instant of passing out. So I don't know what will be the fate, because as he said, also mentioned that a lot of metallurgists go out of country and they serve other nations than our country. So it is a really sad state of affairs for metallurgical fraternity. So we need to create infrastructure. Also, one more point from my side, that we need to improve on our salary structure also, so that the other industries like IT don't take away our manpower. Because their salary structure is phenomenally high than others. Anyway, so now coming to the end of this show, the end of this discussion, I think we had a very absorbing discussion, touching upon many points, right from export to digitalization to cost competitiveness to scrappage policy, and now Mr. Mani mentioned the availability of technically qualified manpower. EVs, of course, EVs was in the center of the discussion, because that is a new thing coming up in the future in front of our eyes. So we had a very absorbing discussion. We had a lot of tips, strategy tips and information, and your viewpoints on the future of foundry industry were very valid. I again personally thank Mr. Sachin, Mr. Amar, and Mr. Mani for their availability for this discussion. Thank you very much. Now we will close down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.